Happy Wednesday, happy hump day.
Happy Hump Day, yeah. Episode 32, man. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I got to meet him in person. Did a great talk on AI down in Texas. Great guest. It'll be really fun. Just since we're a little late today, let's get rolling with the sponsors. Shout out to our sponsors, great companies. Multi-Service Fuel Card, been around since 1978. I got to meet Jessica and Patricia in Texas. We're putting together a video actually, having to do with their product, but yeah, longevity, great discounts. They work with brokers too, if you want your brokers to have a fuel card. Black Box, where Will works, HD, where I recruit agents for. Our new sponsor, we're really excited to have them on Loadbase. Stan over there. I know you and I checked out their product when we were in Birmingham. Great tracking. We talk about loads being stolen and other issues, and and we're check out them, loadbase.com. Great company, great people.
Yeah, 100%. Then we've got Sales Dash CRM. It's a freight-centric CRM. Black Box uses it, man. We love it. It's very intuitive. Josh and his team have done an excellent job building out the platform. And then last but not least, our banner sponsor, TAFS, factoring company. Cash flow is king. So if you guys are looking for a new factor, swap it up, or just information, man, they do a great job with just education. Good people over there.
Yeah, 100%. Well, should we get going?
Yeah, man. Let's go ahead and bring them on. Shane, how are you?
Hey, folks. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Was telling Will we're excited for this. It was great listening to you down in Texas and meeting you in person. And AI is a hot topic, so we're excited to get into it.
Shane, how about we start just kind of telling us a little bit about your background for those that may not know you or be familiar, just kind of how you found your way into freight tech, what you've done and what you're doing now.
Sure thing. So Shan here. I'm the co-founder of Forward Labs. How I started my career, I was actually trained as a management consultant, which, in other words, I would like to say I'm training the art of BS, you could say. So whether it's about detecting it, right, maybe sometimes arguably producing it. But after that, I mostly spend my time in the world of startups, help build a couple companies. Some went on to be a couple billions, some never took off. So learn a lot of lessons there. How we got into freight, unlike the typical freight tech founders, right, who have combined 200 years of experience on their resume in freight, my co-founder and I had 0 days in freight, and we're very honest about that. We are very curious about what we can do in the freight world, because we used to build payment infrastructures, and we used to move millions of transactions in seconds, right? And out here in the freight world, our initial hypothesis was, hold on, we're actually doing quite similar things when you look at freight brokers, right, who are facilitating those transactions. They might not necessarily need to move the assets themselves, but why can a broker only move 10 or hundreds of loads a day, right? So that's how we got into it. And at Forward Labs, we started with helping brokers automate their operations, so they can have more time and free up to sell. But then more and more, our customers are asking us, why don't you just help me sell, right? So now we actually shifted some of our focus on helping people sell better, and I talk a bit more about that as well.
Yeah, I'd love to hear, since you brought that up, because you hear a lot of AI on the operation side and logistics. We don't hear it talked as much about on the sales side. At least I don't. So I guess maybe, if you want to touch on that, I'd love to hear kind of what's being utilized. I think I just saw C.H. Robinson just implemented something in that field as well.
Sure thing. I think what's out there on the market, there's a lot of quoting and sort of rating set of things. So there are a lot of things out there. What we try to do, and this is still fairly new, but we try to say, hold on, whichever brokerage team we speak to, they often complain about a couple of things. Number one, hiring. They are not finding the best sort of rep, and it's really hard to find that diamond in the rough, right? Number two, training. I mean, Matt, you know more than me, right? So
recruiting's not easy, finding good talent. Sorry to interrupt you.
There you go, right? So one is around that part. Number two is about training. Actually, maybe Will, I'll ask you. At Black Box, what is the expectation for a new sales rep to get his or her first sale? How much lead time do you give them?
Man, it varies. So the first month or so, they're kind of in a classroom setting, right? Like we take them through A to Z logistics, vocab, our strategy to sell, all that good stuff. And then after that month, they're on the floor, and usually we see them move their first load month 2 to 3. But again, that first month they're not selling at all.
Right. Yeah. So sort of like that training part is another part, right? And then there's like tracking, and then finally even motivation. So I think we're still quite new in this, but we try to do things for each of them. So for example, for hiring, what I realized as a sales rep and used to be a sales manager is whenever I hire someone, I don't want them to tell me how good they are. I want them to show me. And the only way to show is actually through a sales call, right? So maybe, and actually, Matt, I don't know when you do recruiting for agents, do you mock a sales situation with them? How do you tell if a person is good?
So it's a little different on the agent side. I would say on the W-2 side, there's more questions like that. On the agent side, if they're going straight commission, they generally have to have some idea they're not going to make any money in that regard. But I mean, you kind of tell from talking. But I'd say on the W-2 side, I mean, you're correct. I mean, there's a lot more mock situations and things like that with hiring.
The W for us, we pretty much only hire people that are green that have no freight experience. So we're, they have nothing to build off of, right? It's level 0, right? And then you're building up. But with Matt, he's dealing with people that have probably been doing it for a few years and know what they're doing.
I see. So one solution we are pushing out right now is actually the ability to mock a sales situation with an AI. So you'll be calling a phone and then you'll be talking to a prospect. And how we sort of create a situation is sort of do past transcripts, or even with the sales manager creating that bot with us together, right? And you'll be able to give this to all your candidates for them to call and go through a scenario with. And so when you are actually, before you even have that first conversation with the candidate, you got a call transcript, you got a recording, and even some evaluations on how good this person is when it comes to the sales skills, discovery, questions asking, probing, building relationship, stuff like that. So that's one thing we're trying to do, and still very early stage. And then there's things on the training side as well.
To interrupt you, but yeah, that's fantastic. So we do a similar thing, but it's not AI or through any kind of bot that's been built out. But in the training room, that classroom style setting, we'll go one by one with the reps, and they'll be making a fake cold call to my partner Logan, who does the sales training, so everybody can hear, and he acts like a prospect, gives them different things to respond to so they can learn. But yeah, if you can build something out where they can practice in their own time, right? Like, hey, everybody make them instead of, that's fantastic. I like that idea, the concept of it.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I think our customers, especially sales managers, are telling us they're busy, right? Like whenever they are coaching and training the staff, they're not selling themselves. So I think those are things where they want to almost clone themselves, right? Like your colleague Logan, almost having him being 24/7 available to call without taking up his production time.
So that's been some of the biggest pushbacks you have is kind of as you talked in your conference and when we were in Texas. I mean, there's a lot of skepticism, some valid, some not valid with AI. I mean, what's kind of some of the biggest pushbacks you kind of get on I guess on AI on the sales side and the operations side?
Yeah, I think specifically with this new project we're launching, a lot of questions asked around how realistic is it going to be, right? Can you cheat? Can you hack it? When you talk to AI, sometimes you can make it to do things and say things in a funky way. There's questions around sales. The key thing is still about relationship building. So how well is it able to replicate that emotional connection? So I think those are valid questions we're working on to make them good, but by no means is it perfect right now. And then on a broader scale, when it comes to AI and freight, I think there are a lot of pushback, and they're valid, which is really around the idea of AI is promising way too much and it's not delivering, right? I think, and I think the ones responsible are the vendors like myself and other freight tech vendors, because there's been this language going on about how AI is going to transform everything and revolutionize everything. I think that's just too big of a promise to be realized, and people are getting disillusioned and jaded.
Does that
From
hurt you too, probably? Because I mean, if someone has a bad experience, they deal with some freight tech company that overpromises the world and says, and then they buy it and it doesn't work. For ones that are actually have real solutions, it can make probably the sales cycle, a lot challenging because people are more jaded.
100%. People are skeptical. People are now, having a almost people are defensive before they even talk to you, right? Because they assume you'll be like the last one.
How do you set AI? I was just curious thinking of this because logistics is there's so many different niche, different, sectors, whether it be flatbed, reefer, an enterprise shipper, or some, shipper on a farm in Iowa that, does 10 shipments a month and someone does, 1,000. I mean, do you have to kind of, program it to, deal with, different types of, shippers, different, types of freight? I mean, logistics is such a big industry. It's got to be, I would imagine, one of the challenges of building it.
100%. That is one of the most difficult part about building solutions here, because we have solutions that work on a general level for every single broker or type of freight. But a lot of times, let's say low building, for example, depends on the type of freight, whether you're a flatbed or reefer versus a dry van, the configurations are a lot more different. So there's a lot of training that go behind that.
Because I was thinking that even for sales calls, I mean, just what part of the country even, you might have a very different conversation with someone in New York City than you would have in, South Dakota, in that regard too, which is what makes freight fun, but makes it probably one of the challenging parts for, freight tech too.
It does. And I think so far, and I think this is a general principle that goes well as well, which is AI, as we build it today, it's as good as the data that comes behind it, right? So in the sales call situation, if we are able to get representative data, which is like if you actually log your calls previously and you have that as a repository, then whatever AI bot you create from that transcript will be a lot more representative to your current customer group.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong. So the way that AI works, it'll build off of that data, right? So from day one, if you got 10 calls in there versus, day 300 where you have 10,000 calls, it's going to become more complex and able to maybe mimic some of those things Matt's talking about, where you can say, hey, it's a hay farmer in South Dakota, low volume, and then it can almost create that personality as opposed to the enterprise shipper and like Memphis, Tennessee, that's a steel, whatever. So is that kind of like how it works? The more data, the more calls you have, the more accurate it gets? I don't even want to say accurate, but complex, where it can do different things.
You got it, Will. It's like that. When it comes to creating that bot, it's really about like if you speak to enough of them, it's able to capture that tribal knowledge, right? I think that is the other part we see people getting excited about, which is on a day-to-day basis, when I make my call and learn something new about an industry or about a client, I have that in my head, and it's really hard for me to share that with the rest of the org if they need it. So by doing that, we'll be able to capture that tribal knowledge too.
So that's a beautiful concept. That's a big push that we're doing at Blackbox in-house, is the concept of taking this tribal knowledge from our seasoned reps and then transferring it to institutional knowledge, right? So how do we talk about like cloning somebody, but not necessarily cloning, but how do I get those resources to them accessible? So like, yes, rep A that's been here 4 years knows what to do in this situation, but rep, Z that just got here 2 weeks ago, how do they access that? Because somebody knows how to do it, but how do we let the whole org have access to it? So it's a beautiful concept. I'm very bullish on doing that within a company.
Yeah, I think that's very smart. And actually, I'll say that's very long-term sighted as well, right? Because, that would take time and investment on your reps and on your senior team, but it's going to pay dividend to the whole company.
Yeah, well, it's also like, how do you go about it, right? Because it's in concept, in theory, like idealistically, it's great. That's what you want. But what's the best way to go about it? And we've kind of bounced around different things, and we've found some things that work, but nothing that's perfect, right? I mean, things like creating a Slack community where you can go search for something in situations, customer bucket problems. So if and when this happens, this is how we handle it. But still, it's kind of messy, right? So I think that's maybe a potential use case for AI down the road. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm glad you guys brought up data too, because I mean, data is talked about, so much in the pricing, world pricing and other types of freight tech. Like, where's the data coming from? Whose data it is? And I think the whole data is another interesting conversation with AI, because that's where how it gets better, right? I mean,
yeah, and it's very sensitive too, right? Because everybody heard that data is the new oil, is the new gold, right? So I don't want to give my gold away, but if you don't sort of make it accessible, then you don't get good product back. I think sort of my frame of view of looking at this as a vendor is we're always very honest about your data is yours, and we are borrowing it to make something for you, right? But whatever we learn from you and from your data is to create this thing for you. And it's not gonna, and especially we serve multiple brokers and different clients who sometimes could be competitors, right? So we're very strict about making sure internally, even our staff are not able to mix things across different accounts. Right? It is an important issue.
Are you guys working with like different size brokers, small brokers, big brokers, maybe asset-based brokerages, or kind of a mix of clientele, I'm guessing?
Yeah, as small as folks with less than 10 folks and large brokers who are doing more than 100 mil, a couple hundred mils. We used to do work with asset brokers as well, but that part is so difficult that we don't think we can serve them really well. So now we're focusing on more so the no-asset side of things.
So who would you say, as I think about it, I would, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd almost think it's easier, or I don't want to say classified as better, but going into a small brokerage and then implementing this stuff early on, as opposed to going into, a very large brokerage and then trying to do this. It's almost like the, can't teach an old dog new tricks, or if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, here we are, we're a big company. It's great. But if you come in with 10 people, you can go ahead and, really like remove some people, automate some stuff, or implement AI to where you're more efficient and your revenue per head is probably substantially more than large company. And that overhaul is probably got to be a little bit overwhelming for some of these organizations that are much larger.
Yeah, I think different companies have different strategy, but for us, we definitely see that, which is going to smaller brokers. They tend to be a lot more excited and ready to make change happen because change is less painful, right? And also the beautiful thing is when you are a 10 people team, you are thinking about how do I grow to be, from 10 mil to 100 mil, and you are not worried about who do I kick off my team because every single hand on deck count, right? So a lot of times we're seeing they're doing boring jobs that the reps themselves don't enjoy doing. And if you can help them get some of that off their load, they're very quickly being staffed on something else that's more important.
Yeah,
cost too, right? I mean, it's the cost of AI to implement AI is a lot less than people think, at least from my understanding.
That's right. And here's a secret that I don't know if other vendors will hit me for it. The cost of AI is going down like this, right? It's and I don't know which direction the screen is going to show, but it's going to go down, right, over time, very quickly. So I think a lot of times right now the harder part about AI is more about making it applicable, right? Making it useful for specific use cases. But the cost in the back, that's something that is not going to be a deal breaker for many use cases.
Yeah, I mean, then even kind of the concept that you described earlier when we were talking about my partner Logan, right? So you clone him and then you open him up to revenue generating opportunities. So if and when we're tied up doing X, which could be automated or have AI doing it, then you free up your top talent, the people that ultimately you want training your people because they're so good, but really you want them hunting or doing whatever they do to generate revenue. So it's is there some hidden cost or opportunity cost rather with not doing it, I would say. And so at Blackbox, we don't have any AI per se, but we've leveraged some automation, and it's gone a long way. I mean, certain tasks that people were doing, they no longer have to do right now. They're doing other things, which brings on more business. So ultimately, it's been very beneficial for us. Yes, please ask some questions if you're tuned in. We'd be happy to answer them. I won't have answers, but Shane can.
Yeah, and while we wait for the question, well, I think the great point you mentioned there is actually, you know what? Even as an AI company, I'm going to go out and say, you don't need AI. Right? I think because it's so much on the news these days, a lot of people ask themselves, all right, do I need AI? Do I have it? I don't have it. Where do I go get it? But I think the better question you should ask is, what problem do you have as a company, right? Is automation the answer? Even if automation is, there are a lot of options, and sometimes you don't need to go to the most cutting edge solution, because cutting edge sometimes also means risk, right? It does means there's a lot more creative risk that you have to take. Sometimes you implement something, it does work amazingly, that it's something you couldn't have done before, but other times it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So you have to think to yourself, if I can solve it with plain old APIs, plain old RPA automations, why do I need to take the risk? You only take the risk when there's something that traditional technology couldn't solve before, right? That's when you make that choice.
Yeah, fine line between doing too much and solving a problem. We got a question from Stan, actually one of our new sponsors with Loadbase. This is a logistics question, but how do you see the new administration affecting trucking for 2025?
Amazing question, which I'll defer to Will and Matt to answer.
I'll defer to I'll defer to Will too. Time will tell on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say anything for certain, but I think it'll be good for the market overall. Many markets which inevitably affect trucking. Trucking is one of those markets that's affected by everything, right? We're moving the product, so ultimately, I'm bullish. I mean, wait and see type thing, but I'm excited as a business owner. I think it'll be good.
So you touched on a cool topic. I think you talked about at the conference as well. The cost of making a mistake too. If you bring on the wrong AI or the cutting edge that you talked about. I mean, do you hear a lot of stories like that from brokerages you're talking to every day? Like, hey, we're a 50-person company. We brought on this apparently cutting edge thing, and now it made some massive mistakes. And the freight tech provider didn't tell them about the risks of this mistake. I wonder how much that's happening out there.
Yeah, I think luckily, maybe unluckily, folks I talk to tend to be more on the conservative side. So they are sort of having costs on the other side. But I've heard horror stories like that, right? Which is when a company bring on a new vendor, something happened and something goes wrong. I think the interesting part to me, who both understand what happened for the company, for the freight company, and on the tech side, often feel so sad that a lot of these mistakes are preventable. What I mean is, from the freight broker's perspective, I hear stories such as, I'm afraid of these tech things. You bring them on. Let's use email automation as an example, right? One complaint I heard recently from customer about their past experience was, all these email automation and AI things, I don't trust them, because what if I install this and it just sends email to all of my customers randomly, or it's going to link up my customers to my carriers and sort of have communication I don't want. So I understand as the freight broker, that's part of their concern, because if that does happen, it's a drastic consequence for them, right? But on the tech side, it's almost so sad for me to hear that's a concern, because it's totally preventable, and it's about a configuration, right? So I think a lot of time it's about, and I think it's the tech vendor's responsibility. When they set up a new technology, they need to make sure that the configuration part is not just that their solution can start working, but they should also answer questions from the freight broker about, all right, what are the key things in your operation you want to keep the same, and what are some risks you want to prevent, right? These are easy conversations and simple. For example, this mistake that you talked about, that's not an AI thing. That's just a business rule they can set up front, right? So it's said to me that these type of preventable mistakes are happening again and again, and it sort of hurts people's confidence in tech solutions.
I'm glad you brought up the configuration. What is the implementation, for products like this, or like if you sign up a new customer to do your sales stuff, how long does it take to get everything, up and running?
Yeah, the honest answer is everybody's least favorite answer, which is it depends, right? But let's use a real example, right? I think, Will mentioned about the situation about internal training. That's a great situation, right? So what we would do is I'll talk to Will and be like, all right, sounds like you already have Logan doing trainings. Can I have Logan speak to me, and even sometimes our bot, for just 30 minutes, 1 hour, right? To give me a training, and then we're gonna record that, and then we can turn that into, I'm just gonna say a training bot. I don't want to say clone again. It's not the same, right? It's just a training resource that can be done within a week, right? But then the tweaks and the sort of refinement, Logan coming back talking to the bot and be like, you know what, it should add this, it should do more things, it shouldn't teach about this. That can take another week or two, right? But I think the beautiful part is about when we have something like this set up, it can capture tribal knowledge in an easier way, right? I think, well, you have a great example earlier, which is everybody want to capture the tribal knowledge, but the problem is nobody takes the time to, because there's no easy way, right? Yeah. So here, what happens is if you're talking to an AI bot, in this case, look at a number you can call, right? And then to have it coach you or ask questions with. If there's a question that the new rep asks that hasn't been logged before, or the AI doesn't have the answer, it can ask Logan for you and then log it in the database, right? So every time a question and the answer is provided, it gets captured in your own company's knowledge base. So that's why overall it depends. It can get started very quickly, right? And it can take a few weeks, a month for it to be very useful.
Oh, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, does depend on a lot of factors. Well, I know we're getting kind of towards the end here. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up that maybe we didn't touch about, or some things in the AI world that people aren't asking about or don't know about, or just anything that you wanted to touch on maybe we haven't touched on?
Yeah, I think maybe just a fun story to share, right? Which is about the limit of what the tech can do. So far, I think all of the talks about AI in freight is around automation, right? How do we get rid of people? How do we make people better, help them do more job, make more money? There's never been conversation around, can AI help people with things like burnout, like mental health, like loneliness, right? So I brought it up because what happened was, as a early stage tech founder, my life is full of burnout because this shit. And oops, I don't know. Can I say curse words here?
You do it.
Yeah. All right, it's just hard, man. Yeah. Right. So I'm constantly in the ups and downs. Yeah. What ends up happening is, just for fun or for curiosity, I built myself an AI bot to talk to as emotional support, and it actually works. So if you're looking at me from outside the window, you'll see me talking to an AI every day, right? To deal with stress, to cope with stress, to plan out my day, to get well and get through burnout. So I just thought that's a unique thing that I never thought was possible. And I know in freight, I speak to a few folks at the conference as well, whether it's truckers, whether it's brokers, right? A lot of high stress situations people go through. So I'm just curious, right, about is there room, right, for AI to help people, not just get rid of people? So that's something that's top of mind for me.
Yeah, that's a great story. Yeah, I mean, there's so many potential use cases. I'm excited to kind of follow along and see what happens in our space with AI, and we follow along with you, rooting for you. I think what you're doing is fantastic, and then it's been an honor to have you on and talk to you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been great to be on the pod.
Thanks again for coming on. We'll talk soon. Oh, how should people reach out to you? Say someone watches this on Spotify or watching live or YouTube, and they want to reach out to you. What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, you can reach me on my email, Shan, SHAN @forwardlabs.ai, or you can give my AI emotional support a call at 415-612-8090. It's a real number you can call, and you'll be able to just talk to an AI, get things off your chest. It's gonna sort of be your personal therapist, coach, support, whatever you call it. So that's how you can reach me and my AI.
Awesome. Well, thanks so
Awesome.
much, man. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks again.
Thanks, folks.
Bye.
Man,
That was good. Really
Yeah.
good.
wealth of knowledge there. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see AI use cases moving forward.
Yeah, no, I liked the aspect too of it, the emotional and mental. I never really thought because you hear AI so much in like certain fields, and you're not hearing as much in others. But yeah, no, it was cool. You said that AI, the cost is going down. I love that line. Other freight tech providers might not like this, but the cost is going down.
Yeah, man, it seems like he'll shoot you straight. So I appreciate that.
Shout out again to our sponsors, Multi-Service Fuel Card. If you're a broker looking to add a fuel card for your carrier looking to have better rates, been around since 1978. Great company, great people based in Kansas City. Black Box, obviously, Will's company, HD Ships. If you're looking to be an agent, love to talk to you. Our new sponsor, we saw Stan in the comments. If you're looking at different tracking options, obviously, a lot of freight's getting stolen. A lot of customers are requiring tracking. They got a great product. Check them out, loadbase.com, or hit up Stan. Great individual. Sales Dash CRM. Will uses Sales Dash CRM. I met Josh in Birmingham just the other week. Great guy. Freight specific. Freight specific CRM.
Yeah, and then last but not least, our banner sponsor TAPS. If you're looking for a factoring company or looking for a change, or you simply want some education, it's great people over there. Their website has lots of good content. If you check out our Two Dawgs page, we've been doing a series about them. So yeah, go check them out, talk to them. They'll be happy to help you. Awesome. Well, yeah, that'll do it for episode 32. We'll be back at it Friday.
Yeah, Friday with Jason Manser, CEO of Yellow Diamond. That'll be a fun show. Same time, right? I think 10 Central.
I'm not certain. I'd have to check, but sounds right.
Yeah, we'll have the event page up today or tomorrow. So look for that. And yeah, have a good one. I'm sure we'll talk later, Will.
You as well. All right. See you.